welcome to Angela Soudi's podcast. Today I have a very special guest. I'm extremely happy to have on the show Dariush Soudi. Dariush is the CEO and founder of the Be Unique Group based in Dubai. He founded the company over 10 years ago now, originally from Iran, but built his career in the UK and then moved to Dubai. So we're going to hear all about that story shortly. He's also a professional speaker and a thought leader, and he also happens to be my husband, which is why I'm a little bit nervous today. So welcome to the show, Dariush.
Well, thank you for inviting me to my own office.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate this.
It's my pleasure.
Do you know what I love about the way that introduction was? That you only looked at your piece of paper 3 times to remind you who I was. So thank you so much. But you did very well, because I expected at least 5 times.
Okay, well, thank you. So that's a good start then.
Yes.
And I think I stuttered once, so that's
You didn't
better.
stutter.
Okay, great. So I think what I'd like to do today is really talk about different aspects of your life. Because I think, behind the business consultant, people don't really understand who Dariush is. They see this business guru, this entrepreneur, this individual with all this knowledge, but they don't really understand where that knowledge comes from. And for me personally, when I see you giving advice to companies, I wonder, do they really value where this information is? So I think it'd be really helpful for people to understand, who is Dariush? Where did your journey start? How did you get to where you are today? What lessons did you learn along the way on that journey that can help other individuals and budding entrepreneurs with their own journeys?
Wow. I think you asked that long question, so I can talk for 45 minutes,
Indeed,
right? And that's
absolutely.
you don't have to say one word again throughout
Exactly.
this podcast. Really
Yeah.
good question.
Uh-huh.
Where would you like me to start from?
So from the beginning, you're from, you were born in Tehran. You lived in Tehran until you were 14. Why did you move at that stage to the UK?
Okay. I think more than anything else is, as a child, I faced a lot of challenges. And I think as a child up to the age of 8 or 9, it shapes the person you are. And then it's a choice that you have as an adult, whether you're happy with that person, the personality you've developed, or you're not. So we can always change. So I'm not saying that I'm 54 and a 54-year-old still lives with that 8-year-old inside. But that 8-year-old has a huge power over adults that we are today. Mm-hmm. So by the age of 4, I lost my father. I was brought up around a lot of women. So I'm extremely sensitive, emotional, and very aware of people's behaviors, where most men that I know aren't, because they've been brought up around lots of men. My grandfather passed away 3 years after my father, and these are the 2 people who were taking care of me. So automatically I realized that life is very short. Most of us, again, I believe that we live life like it's forever. And I never want to have a life that I have regrets. And as you know, I like taking lots of holidays. Yeah, we like taking lots of holidays because I really believe life's an adventure. So I've never been one for mundane, continuous, same thing, fit in a box, because I want my life to be a one-off, an adventure and also I want to inspire people, because I feel that I didn't have anybody at a young age to teach me anything, right? And I could have probably achieved a lot more in my life if I had some coach, somebody to guide me. And so I made an early decision, age 7 and 8, that I was going to always treat people with respect. I'm always going to teach them things that could enhance their lives. And I was a walking, talking person who didn't settle to where he was born or the circumstances he was born in. So I thought, if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I'm not by any means the strongest, fastest, tallest, slimmest, most attractive, most intelligent in anything. I've been on courses all over the world, and I realized I am actually Mr. Average. But I'm not the only Mr. Average. The reason you're average is because most people are like you. And I thought, if I wasn't born with a gift, how can I develop certain skills that can give me an outstanding life? So I worked on those. And I like to think that I'm a champion for the average person. Not man, just average person, male or female, average being.
You see, thank you. And from my point of view, I think, looking at your sort of life journey, I think that you were born with a gift, because, you see so many children that are born into privileged lives. They have, fantastic parenting. They have ready-made businesses to step into. and yet they still take a different road. Whereas, you know, for you, you didn't have that guide. You know, you didn't have a father figure. You didn't have a grandfather to say, okay, this is the way. Let me teach you about business. So the fact that you had that mindset when the odds were against you, you know, to really make those decisions for yourself, I believe that is it is a gift.
Well, the thing is, often I think to myself, was it a curse or was it a gift? And I would give it all up today to spend 5 minutes with my dad.
I understand that.
I'm getting
I
emotional.
understand.
So what the hell is money
But at what
when
point
love is everything?
did you feel, you know, in your, you know, your sort of childhood, going through your formative years, did you think, okay, I'm going to turn these experiences...
Thank you for not showing one bit of emotion when I'm getting all emotional.
Sorry, I was
you didn't,
trying
as
to...
a wife, you didn't give me a handkerchief.
Because I'm trying to
I'm only
make
joking.
you not
I'm only
sad.
joking.
I'm trying to
It's
make you...
okay, but sadness is part of life, right?
Yeah.
So most of us want to have this fairy tale life, and life is hard. Life is hard.
Do you think that those experiences, you know, not having your father, do you feel that that created a driving force in you to maybe, you know, make him proud or be successful and, you know, set yourself aside from people around you to achieve more?
I honestly can tell you that actually earlier on in my life, before I had children, I actually wanted to live a life where, like, I was a daredevil. I did everything to, in a way, subconsciously end it all. Because, Dad, if I can die young like you, would I be accepted? Would I be loved? But when you have children, a different sense of responsibility comes into your life. And I always thought I want to be the father that I never had. So, and then you become more honorable, you have more values, you even now, as you know, my children range from 27 to 6. Even now, when I'm holding a meeting, I'm thinking, if my 6-year-old was here now watching me, would he be proud of me? So your sense of responsibility changes. I guess I was more selfish, but now I like to be more considerate towards the legacy I leave behind for my kids.
And that's beautiful. That's really beautiful.
I think that's why you married me.
I think that's why I married you. That's beautiful. And do you feel that, you know, looking at your sort of heritage from Iran, because you left Iran when you were 14, and then you moved to the UK. So, you know, you moved to the UK, you didn't speak the language, you didn't know the culture. Where do you feel, but then from 14 until moving to Dubai 11 years ago, you lived in the UK. So in terms of your sort of heritage and your culture, do you feel that you're more Middle Eastern, or do you feel that you're more European, or are you a balance of the two?
Actually, I thought you were going to try to make me cry again. I'm not going to cry again.
I wasn't.
I'm going to commit.
I won't make you cry again.
But I don't mind talking about my childhood. One thing I knew that when I went from Iran to UK, I wasn't like everybody else. My name is Mohammed Dariush Soudi, as you know. And so I never fitted right from the beginning. I was the only foreigner at school. So although I was being bullied every day, even my teachers were bullying me and calling me names, I never quit. I couldn't go home and tell my mum, because my single mum, she had her own problems. So when I would go home and my shirt was torn or because I was getting a good beating, I would get a beating at home because I couldn't take care of my uniforms. So I thought, you know what, I'm on this world by myself, right? So I've got to work hard to not allow external factors to defeat me. So I learned martial arts. I tried to excel at sports. I became a head boy at the school, and 2 years before I couldn't speak English. Didn't stop the beatings. I still got bullied, but it kind of proved to me that you can do whatever you set out to achieve, right? And then I tried to use that bullying because most foreigners, when you speak to them, they have a strong accent. And I tried to speak English without an accent because that accent will result in a beating. Right, so I just made a decision that I wasn't going to speak English with a foreign accent, so I could fit in. But I never externally could fit in, but I tried to. Does that make sense? The external factors didn't accept me, but I tried to fit in because I knew as a foreigner I wouldn't get on as well as I could in that environment. But I wasn't going to be subordinate. I wasn't going to be pushed around. Right? So I was going to do things my way, but somehow have to fit in. When I when my business failed in the UK, I thought about going back to Iran. Then I thought, that country's changed over the last revolution and everything else. And England wasn't for me. My DNA doesn't like grey clouds and grey days and short, dark days. I like the sun. And we were just fortunate enough that my sister lived in Dubai. So it was an introduction to this country, and I fell in love with it because it's got the safety, the systems of Europe, and it's still got the religious beliefs, be it not so strict and more open and more giving, and it just ticks all the boxes. Never liked paying taxes. So the idea of I work, I earn, I keep really appealed to me. And although it came later on in our lives, it served me really well. And I thank the leaders of the country. I thank the universe for offering me this opportunity, us the opportunity to give our children the best life they could ever wish for.
Indeed, yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think, you've run successful businesses in the UK. And that's, I think part of my appeal certainly to you, as a husband, as a partner, as a businessman, was that you've been on both sides of the coin. So we had this discussion this morning about, if we were looking for coaches, who would we aspire to be coached by? Whether it's fitness or it's business or it's personal. And I think in your case, you've built those successful businesses, you've lost them, and then you've rebuilt them again. And that to me, is very appealing because you walk, you talk. The businesses from the UK versus your businesses here, in your experience, what are the differences? Running a successful business out of Europe with all the rules and the regulations and the restrictions, and then coming here and starting from scratch, because when you came here, you started from zero, and you built a business in a very short period of time, to a successful level. So in your experience, which market is easier for young budding entrepreneurs to penetrate into the market and to be successful for themselves?
Great question, but I'd like to start by saying that, so you didn't marry me for my looks?
That was the other factor, of course.
Okay, and my great body?
Indeed.
Okay, so past that shallow answer. Actually, I really believe that if I go back to England or anywhere in Europe or anywhere in the world, I could do this quick.
Okay.
It's just that Dubai and its leadership and the way it works and the openness changed my mindset. Now I couldn't imagine. I know you were born in valleys, yes. Mm-hmm. Now somebody who's born in a valley, and leaders have been known to not to be born in flatland, because in a valley you only see what's in front of you and you don't see distances. And I can only look at my life, and I think when I was in England, I felt I was in a valley. Okay, and I come to a country of desert where I can see 10 kilometers away, and that's how I feel. I feel that it doesn't really matter about the actual country now. My mindset has changed. My view of the world has changed. So I feel a lot more empowered. Now, the good thing about Europe is that in London, you have 14 million people within an hour drive. So if I was going to start a business, I'll definitely start in London because I can do market research in an hour. Mm-hmm. Here, you have to drive everywhere. The whole population of this city is 4 million. The whole population of the country is 10 or 12 million, and half of them are, below living standard professionals. So I think the rewards are higher in Europe, yes. But then the expansion and the attitude of business is better here. Because they're more entrepreneurial. It's a younger country. The majority of people are under 40, whilst in the UK, majority of people are over 70, or Europe, should I say. Also, I think with Europe, there's this claustrophobic feeling. When I go from here to Europe, not America so much, but then I'll explain what I think of America as well. The roads are smaller. Yes, there's only one lane.
More narrow.
Yeah, narrow. There's terraced houses, Here, the houses were built, the roads were built after. In England, there were horse-drawn carriages, and then they just happened to build cars afterwards. So even when we go to France or Italy, the rooms in hotels are small, and you feel claustrophobic. And I just like space, and it's like my mindset. I like I like silence, as you know, solitude. I like space to think. And although it's beautiful character history, we live on the Palm, and from the Palm to the airport, it's a good half an hour drive, but we don't have one traffic light.
True.
You know, we go 200 meters in England, there's 3 traffic lights, 2 roundabouts, and 2 pelican crossings.
Absolutely.
Right? So, and it's the same with the US. Maybe they have 7 lanes, or it take you half a day to go from A to B because there's traffic.
True.
So here you got speed, you got freedom, you got space. Whilst in Europe, you're claustrophobic. In the States, there's traffic, and so I can't imagine a better place to work in than Dubai.
What
Again,
about,
thanks to his vision of his leaders, amazing. We're blessed to be here at the right time in the right place.
I agree fully. What about, so that's business. What about for your life, like on a personal level? If you were not here, you know, because of business and growing the, you know, the business, if you were looking at, okay, business now is at a level where maybe it doesn't need your attention so much, and you wanted to live and enjoy life and slow down, because the pace here is very fast. You know, we're on 1,000,000 miles an hour all of the time. You know, Dubai is a very, very moving and a very transient city. So if we were looking at, in terms of for yourself, you know, where would you want to live?
Is that an indirect answer? So you can later
like,
on after this
what's
podcast
our
say,
next
did
step?
you say Sydney? Did you say Sydney when I like Melbourne?
Yeah. No, this is the way of manipulating the podcast to see where our next move will be.
Okay, I think in life you go through different stages, right? So right now we're still trading, and I love to, unfortunately this damn corona stopped us trading around the world and traveling so much, but I love to have a business in the US, Europe, and here. I'm a nomad, so I love traveling. I like different seasons, different countries. So ideally, I like to have an apartment in autumn in New York. I like to have an apartment in summer in London. I like to have a sort of chalet in winter in Switzerland. So different parts of the world, and I love spring in Dubai. So I don't like to travel with any cases. All my clothes are there at those houses and apartments. I arrive, I live, I get bored, I move on. And I think we work like that together, don't we? We get bored quite easily. And you know, how many more days have I got left? Yeah, if I gave you, let's say, if I gave you $10,000 now, and I say to you, spend $1 a day, okay? It's not a lot of money, okay? I don't have 10,000 days left.
You know, now we're in a situation where, you know, our youngest son is 6. So you have 4 children, 4 beautiful children. We have 2 of the most amazing children together, and then, you know, I have 2 incredible stepkids. We're very blessed. So I think, you know, looking at the life cycle of all the children, you know, Ali and Yasmin now are independent, they're young adults, they don't really need us. But for Kain and Caden, you know, the younger ones, they very much need, you know, parental support. Caden's only 6, Kain's 13. You know, he's coming into those key teenage years, and already we can see, you know, challenges in him that maybe we've never had before. You know, his personality's forming. So I think, you know, as a couple, as a family, we know that at the moment, for the next, you know, few years while they're going through their education, they need a level of stability. You know, and they like that level of stability. They like to be around their family, they like to be around their friends, you know, but for me, I see that when the younger kids grow and they then step into the shoes of Ali and Yasmin and become more independent, I also see a life of travel. And I think that, you know, the world is very small now and we have the means to be able to do that. You know, from your point of view, you love traveling. So, you know, this whole COVID situation and having that freedom taken away, you know, how have you dealt with that internally?
Well, we kind of still traveled, right? We just found countries that there was no
open.
restrictions, right?
Yeah.
We're actually traveling in 3 days. But there was some, thank you for your question. First of all, as you know, your stepchildren are, they call them stepchildren, right?
Just call them
and they're older
so,
kids,
yeah.
27 and 25. You said that they don't need us. Actually, I think they really do. The fact that they are the kids that they are, although they're adults, is that they know we're there, right? The fact that they know we're there fulfills their need. And they can pick up the phone and they know they're going to get total unconditional love. If that wasn't there, they will suffer. So we think that our 13-year-old, 6-year-old need us most. the 27 and 25-year-old need us as much, but they just know it's there, if that makes sense, in a different way. So that need for love never reduces with age. It's just that they're not, they need, if we don't feed our kids, they'll suffer, the 6 and the 13-year-old. Okay, so they need us, but the 27-year-old, 25-year-old, they can feed themselves. So they need us in case of support, but love is the same. They still need the same guidance and support and love. As they get older, they test, because nobody wants to live the life of the parents, right? They want to say, let me live my life with your values. Don't criticize me, support me, guide me. And I love you so much, and I'll come to you and share with you my failures without fear, okay? And I think the reason we have, thank you God, the universe, we have such incredible kids, is because we brought them up with unconditional love. And they know that their home is always going to be safe. Their home is always going to be a place where they're going to be loved and adored and cherished. And one of the sad parts is they never leave, right? So I don't think that travel ever is going to happen because they never leave.
Or we'll have an additional tag along the way on each journey.
Yeah, called grandkids. So to answer your question is that if we live to be old enough and healthy enough, I love to travel with you, knowing that our kids always know they're loved.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree fully.
And the thing is, right, for instance, I want to go to a course 3.5 weeks down the line. And I know there's a calling for me in this course. But honest truth, I'm not just saying this, is that the course won't be the same if you're not there, right? So, because we all need others to share our loved ones, to share our experiences with, okay? And I just hope that when our kids are old enough to travel by themselves, they always have somebody to share their experiences with, be it us, be it their siblings, or be it their partners, that they can unconditionally share those moments.
Yeah, no, I agree fully.
You didn't realize I was so wise, did you?
No, I always knew.
We should do more podcasts.
Well, that's why I've invited you onto my incredible podcast.
Yes, that's why you said if it doesn't work out, you delete everything, right?
I don't recall ever saying that, sorry. And
that's called marriage.
Yeah, selective memory.
Yeah.
So let's look at your parenting style then. So, from Caden, we have the 4 kids, very different personalities. And I think, I know personally that I parent the children in different ways based on their personality. So let's look at your parenting style. How do you feel that your parenting style has developed? Because when you had your first 2 kids, you were in your 20s. Now you're older, you're wiser, you're, a lot more stable, mentally, financially, emotionally. So how do you feel that, as a busy, businessman, a husband, how do you juggle that parenting? How do you juggle to make sure you give even attention to all 4 kids? And how does your parenting style differ between the 4 of them?
I think when you have children when you're young, I was a dad at 27. When you have children when you're so young, you're on your own path. You're a young person, you're still developing your own personality and learning. At the same time, you have a lot more energy. So I remember with Ali, our 27-year-old, that I used to spend a lot of time with him on the squash court, on the badminton court, and because I've always been a fighter, the poor thing was in the car listening to me talking about fighting and winning and this and that and never quit. And so that's why he's such a leader he is today. But maybe he didn't have as much, if you ask him, he thinks he's had a wonderful childhood, but I think it's like when you say to people, do you want to go to university? And the ones who've been to university say, I didn't learn much, but I had lots of fun, right? Maybe being so driven as a father, I took a lot of his fun away. He wouldn't think so, but maybe I did. But he became a leader. He was captain of his team. He was a leader everywhere he went. He was looked up as an top athlete in everything he did. And even now, as we know, he's a leader, and his sense of work and honor and everything is incredible. So I like to take some credit for it. Now, I had my ex-wife wasn't as engaged as you are. So I had to be a mother and a father and a carer and a businessman. And because looking after the kids was my number 1 priority, I kind of lost myself. Well, with you, because you're more engaged as a woman, as a mother, I've had more time to be the man I wanted to be,
Uh-huh.
but I don't have the same level of energy as I did when I was 27.
Of course.
So I can afford to have football coaches, right? Before I was the football coach. So the love is everything. That has not stopped. Actually, even I think now I give more love and time, quality time to our little ones than I did to Ali and Yasmin, because I was always striving. Now I'm not striving so much. Often I go and pick up the kids from school. I hardly ever did that with Ali and Yasmin. And I guess my only regret is that I didn't spend enough time with them, because when time goes, it's gone.
You never get that back.
Never get that back. And
Yeah.
so does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Kind of.
it does. It does. You know, in terms of parenting style, you know, would you consider yourself to be a strict parent? Are you quite relaxed? Do you advise them? Is that the way that you would teach and
Well,
guide
obviously
them?
not strict enough, because our two boys give me so much cheek. Yes, but you know, I think you know, and people who know me know, and my family know, that the kids really poo themselves when it comes to me.
That's
right?
true.
And it's not. We have a dog that poos herself every time she sees me, and I think it's not because. I think it's my tonality. I think it's my certainty that they know how far they can push. But last night, and when I say I count to three, on three, if they haven't done something, they know hell's gonna
It's
let
coming.
loose, right?
Yeah.
So our 6-year-old last night, because you were in another room, so I'm going to count to three, and I said, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" I'm like, "You
Pushing
little
boundaries.
bugger, 6-year-olds, you're testing me." And I thought on three, I've got to really make him pay for this, right? So I won't tell you what I did, but when he counted three, I was lying there. I literally attacked him, you know, in a funny way, not in a...
Of course.
Yeah, so he was giggling, and at the same time, I didn't stop, because I wanted to realize that this is, you're
There's
pushing your
repercussions.
boundaries. Yeah,
of
it's
course.
not just any three, it's my three. And I'm sure next time, and he had to run off laughing and crying at the same time, because he knew, you know, it's like having a wild horse, and if you want to ride it, you've got to break it, right?
Of
So
course.
I think I'm quite good at that. They know I love them unconditionally. Even if I'm having a go, I say, "Listen, I love you, but you screwed up here."
Yeah, it's true.
I never ever take my love away. And so to answer your question, strict. It hurts me when I tell them off, but I know it's needed. Am I right? Probably 70% of the time I'm wrong. Yes, but we're humans, right?
Of course. But as you said, love is everything. You know, they know that all four of them, from Ali right down to, you know, Caden, all four of them know
I think so.
that no matter what time of day, morning, noon or night, they come in the house, that, you know, they're welcomed with love and open arms and kisses and hugs and
What would you have done? I'm going to cry again.
yeah.
What
as a
would you and I
child.
have done for that?
Yeah.
Right? That I used to come home and I was dismissed, like I didn't exist.
Yeah.
My stepfather was an alcoholic. When I used to come into the house, I had to pretend I didn't exist. I had to put my shoes in a certain way, the front entrance, sneak so our eyes didn't cross path. He used to sit watching television. He was addicted to whiskey and television. And when I walked in, I couldn't distract him from watching TV. So
Otherwise,
I had to,
you were
I'll be chastised.
reprimanded.
And then, not that I'll be chastised, because I know my mum loved me, it'll create a massive argument between them. So because I love my mum so much,
you just
I
decided
just
to be small.
took it. I just took it. So now I like my space so much because I spend so much time on my own, right? With my music, with my creativity. Again, that served me well now because my creativity has got us to where we are today.
But at the
Yeah.
same time, on the positive note, you know, you didn't take those experiences and make them into a negative. You're not cold.
Well, I
You're
tried
very
killing
warm.
myself. No, I tried killing
But
myself
I mean,
so many times.
I mean today as a parent, you know, monkey see, monkey do. I was abused, therefore I'm an abuser. That's not you.
No,
You know,
I decided that it's going to stop with me, right? Because I've got to give my mum some credit, right? So she could have easily been defeated, but age of 29 with 2 kids, she left Iran with no money and started a new life.
Didn't speak the language.
Didn't speak the language, still doesn't, barely. But you know, also it's this sense of responsibility because all my life I've been told that I've got to take care of everyone. So I guess that was installed in me, maybe brainwashing, whatever it is, but I couldn't let go. I had to provide, right? So Maybe.
Do you think that, because that's one question that I wanted to ask you during this podcast, you know, as an employee, you know, you have somebody saying, be at the office by 9, you know, work till 6, work till 7, these are your tasks and this has to be done. As an entrepreneur, you know, you don't have anyone behind you saying, get out of bed, get to the office, you know, drive the business. It all comes from within. So I think, you know, coming from an entrepreneur's perspective, you have to be so highly motivated, because it is easy to say, oh, you know, I'll just take the day off. I've nobody to answer
and
to.
we do. You and I do. When we're comfortable,
yeah,
we relax, right?
we do relax. But at the same time, you know, you've always had that drive within you. Even if you relax, the next day you're back out there again, you know, and you're pushing and you're striving. So do you think that those experiences from childhood installed that motivation? We come across many people, they come, they say, you know, I want to start this business, this is my life dream. We say, okay, great, then meet us at 6 in the morning. Ooh, 6 is a little bit early, you know, they kind of, they want it in their mind, but when it comes to, you know, taking action and actually delivering, they don't, they make excuses. You don't make excuses, you get the job done.
Or even if I've been a dick, I say it, right? I say it. And the reason is that I like to think I don't allow my ego to blind me from the truth. So the reason those people don't wake up at 6 or 5 to get to the appointment at 6 and get ready and professionally adhered, dressed and everything is because they don't acknowledge the pain they're in. Okay, so they live in this cloud cuckoo land, in denial. They wanting, but they are accepting. This is something you and I don't understand. They're accepting the shitty situation they're in. Okay, so I think I said to you at the beginning that I've been brought around women. I'm very aware of my feelings and senses and stuff. So that way I'm blessed. And I do think women are much more powerful sexes than men. I think we're idiots, really do. I think just the fact that everybody's nodding here, I think it's the fact that we're just bigger physically. That's about the only superior thing that we have. Everything else we're morons. Women are by far the superior sexes. So I've always wanted to be away from the pain and guided towards the pleasure of achieving something. So I think most people avoid even thinking about the pain, right? And they just don't find it inspiring enough to get up early, be uncomfortable. But when I wake up in the morning, I constantly am aware of where I'm coming from, which is painful and I never want to go there, and a drive of wanting better in my life. So you got the pull and the push.
Yes, yeah.
And most people just have the pull and it's not strong enough.
And it's not sustainable. It will pull you for a certain time, but then...
They live in denial because they look at you and I and they think, oh, these guys are happy and positive and smiling.
And it's easy.
It's easy. They're just born that way. But you know, I don't sleep at night. I get about an hour or 2 hours of sleep a night. It's a choice to wake up in the morning with back pains and neck pains and lack of sleep and all sorts of things, and then come and try to be inspiring.
Yes, yeah.
Right? So, but then that energy is getting less with age. I'm not as consistently inspiring and hardworking as I used to be. So I've got to be more efficient.
And
change.
So what, you know, with that in mind, looking at your driving forces and what keeps you moving, what advice would you give, you know, to young entrepreneurs now? Because, you know, we live in a world now where back when we were kids, you know, if you wanted to find information, you were down at the library, you were looking for the book, you were standing in the rain, you know, you had a certain time to take it back. Now everything is just so easy. You know, the internet gives us a wealth of information, and I'm not sure sometimes whether that's a positive or a negative, because also that makes individuals, it's too easy, it comes too easy. So for you, you know, if you were to sit down with a group of budding entrepreneurs, you know, who wanted to be successful in their own businesses, what advice, or what 3 key things would you say?
What do you want? Is it what you want is clear enough? When do you want it? And what are you prepared to sacrifice?
So what do you want, when, and what sacrifices
be specific.
will you make?
Yeah, what sacrifice you're going to make to get you there?
And what
you're gonna make
personality
sacrifices.
traits? What personality traits do they
Doesn't
need to
matter.
have? Okay.
If you
Just be
prepare to
clear.
work hard, if you prepare to, you learn from your mistakes. If you work hard enough, you'll make it. Value yourself. Yeah, don't undervalue yourself. And confidence and value comes from experience. So if you're not going out there knocking on doors, gaining experience, learning from it, you're always going to be weak.
Uh-huh.
Kill the ego. Look at yourself in the mirror. Learn from your mistakes. Grow every day. Yes? Don't be a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give a shit about what people think about you. Of course, give a shit about what your wife and your family and your kids think of you. That's important.
Yes.
But not anybody else. And too many of us waste time listening to others' miserable lives. Yes? And people who actually prefer you to fail in life because it makes them feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? They say, you know, when you speak to some people, 80% of people listening to your sad story don't give a damn. And the other 20% think, thank God it's you and
Thank
not
God
them.
it's not
Right?
me.
So
Yeah.
nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
I think most people tell their crappy story or how hard up it is because it makes them feel good and loved and connected.
To get that connection from.
So don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Look in the mirror, have that honest, you hear about the bathroom moment, get in that bathroom, close the door, you're away, you don't have to pretend to be a mom or a dad or a brother or a sister or a son and a father. Just have an honest conversation with yourself in the mirror. And because at the end of the day, you know what? We've got to be answerable to our God.
Yeah.
Right? And God is within us.
True. True, thank you. That's beautiful. So my last question.
That's it?
Actually, I might have 2 more questions.
Oh, bloody
I
hell.
don't know how long have we done?
Yeah.
It's been
Not
like,
long at
not
all.
long, okay. Feels like longer.
Thanks.
No, they say time flies when you're having fun, right? So.
It seems longer, you're just the opposite.
Okay, back to work quickly. You know, we obviously we work together. You know, husband and wife working together, and our oldest son also works in the business. So, you know, when I'm looking at successful businesses, I like to see, you know, the breakdown. Who are the directors? Who are the ones that are driving this business forward? You know, in this environment, we have personal and we have business. So from your side, what challenges do you face working with family, working with your wife, working with your son? And at the same time, what benefits do you face working with your family members?
Well, we tried hiring other family members and it failed miserably because we weren't vibrating on the same level, right? So again, they were wanting, but they were not prepared to give. They were not prepared to sacrifice. The 3 of us are prepared to sacrifice. There is no concerns. We are on the same goal. We have the same values, same mentalities, everything, same desires. And here's the thing, because we went through shit together.
Yes.
Right? What I do worry about is how our younger kids are going to behave when they come to the business. How are Ali's children are going to behave, because they haven't seen shit.
They've not
It's
seen the
gonna
hardships
be-
to get to this level.
It's going to be everything hunky-dory. What's going to happen to their emotional intelligence, right? Because it's the second and the third or fourth generation that always screw up. The
Because it's too
grandparents
easy
work
for them,
because they've never
right?
seen hardship. So I would like to, again, it's a conversation you and I need to have, is how we're going to bring Kine and Caden up, that they value things, right? Like relationships with staff. How hard it is to build a business. Yes, what if you screw it all up? You know, we have this conversation about they earn more pocket money than I in a week that I did in 6 months, right?
Absolutely.
And saving, is that a good thing to save? What are you going to do? Is there a plan with the money they save? Or do they just every weekend, every time they go to the mall, they feel they have to spend that money? You know, those traits and values and habits are really, really important now that we install in them, because again, one day we're only borrowing them, right?
They'll be off on their own and their own path. And,
Yeah. And if you talk to them now, they both kind of want to come work in the company, right? But what company are they going to run? How are they going to run it? Are they going to run it to the ground? Or are they going to build it? So, yeah, but we again blessed because they see Ali as some
As
kind of
a role
father
model.
figure, role model, and he'll guide them. But I worry for Ali's kids. I worry for other sons' kids or my daughter's kids. So.
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, in both you and I come from a very similar background in terms of our childhood. You know, we were not affluent. We both came from working class families, so, you know, we were not, you know, overly exposed to gifts and treats and toys and dining out. You know, looking at, and we've had this conversation many times. You know, how do we make sure that we maintain that level of grounding in the kids? But at the same time, you know, we have this big thing about, but we want to live an abundant life. We want to show abundance without it being wastage or taken for granted or having that level of appreciation.
I think although we had similar childhood, we had massively different childhoods. I'll explain to you why. My mum is, God bless her soul, and she's still with us, and I hope she's listening, is extremely materialistic, right? Although we were from a very poor background, she was always wanting to be rich, okay? Now, did she have the mentality of a rich person? No, because she wasn't educated or she didn't understand, but she was always wanting. So the question I always ask myself, why? Why can't I have that? Why can't I have that house? Why can't I? Because to her, it was always, they're better than you, they got better houses, better this, better. And I always wanted to get my mum's love, so I always wanted that. With you, you had a ton of love.
True.
You had loads of love in your life, but the language of money wasn't correct in your household.
True.
Right? So whilst I had the money side, I didn't have that love and connection. You had that, but you had, in my opinion, a poor money education, right? So I think maybe the universe has brought us together
To balance those
to balance
two together.
it. Yeah. And I know that, if you don't mind me saying, in the last 14 years, I've heard you change the way you speak about money, and I've changed the way I live my personal life, and I think it's enhanced both our lives. Sometimes painful, sometimes fun, sometimes educational, but always memorable.
True. And hopefully that, that balance will filter down to to the kids.
Yeah.
That's what you hope.
I think we've got to believe in the future. I think the universe, the world is in better hands. It's going to be in better hands. Kids are going to care more about the environment. They're far smarter than all our 4 kids. The younger they are, the smarter they are.
True.
So I actually see it. And their DNA, the kids in the future are going to be far better looking than us. They're going to be stronger than us. They're going to be taller than us. They're going to have less hair than us. They're going to be, they're just going to be
They're
enhanced
evolving.
beings. Yeah. So, of course, emotionally and mentally and caring, they're going to be better as well. So I think the Earth, the planet, is in better hands. It's going to be in better hands in the future. So right now we're just going through crap, and I believe lots of governments trying to control us, movement of money, movement of thought, freedom of gathering. We are tribal people, and they're even trying to kill that. So, but I do think there's going to be a revolt. I do think people are going to say, no, you bigger beings can't control us anymore. So I'm hopeful.
I agree. I think
When I was 6, people used, and that was in this late 60s, early 70s, people used to talk about the world's going to run out of oil, right? In 20 years, the world's going to run out of oil. The population is growing so fast that we can't feed them, right? Found oil to eternity, right? There's going to be oil for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, and then there's liquid gas. Then there's the shells that they can get oil from. Then there's, we've brought out the way we treat Earth. We can produce 6, 7, 10 times more food from the same soil as we did 40 years ago. And that's all through knowledge and change. I'm not all for good, but we've gone and screwed up the environment, right? Our food aren't like they used to be. They don't carry the same amount of vitamins and protein, whatever. So, but humans are resourceful. We'll find a way.
True, and constantly educating and evolving and growing, as well. I look at the conversations that I have with, our 2 youngest children, and I don't remember ever having conversations like that with my parents. Maybe again because we were, like you say, we lived in a village. It was a small community, so we harvested the food.
Maybe we tried, and we just didn't get the right answers, right?
I think we were not so exposed to it. I mean, back when we were kids, I remember we used to go to the market when we were children, and there'd be 2 elements of, you'd go to your local market and you'd have a market stall there with all the fruit and veg. And there'd be one section that was organic, that was
you went to a market that had organic.
Well, it's farm vegetables, and then there was the other section that lasted longer, and you paid more for the products that lasted longer. The ones that came from the farm that rotted within 2 or 3 days, they were the cheap products. You paid more for these that had the pesticides.
There was no education.
There was no education. And now, looking back as a child, I think, God, how naive we were. We thought that was the way. Buy a tomato that will last you 5 days, it's worth it. But buy this one that lasts you a day and a half, no thank you, we don't want those, they go off too quickly. And now, through education and knowledge, now you go to the organic store and it's 3 times more expensive than your local supermarket. So how things are changing and evolving. And even now, I have conversations with with children, and they talk about, we're very aware of where does that plastic waste go? Mummy, I've got this plastic bottle, where's the plastic recycling bin? We never knew about things like this when we were kids. It was still there, wastage was still there. But now, on a global scale, there's a lot more education, a lot more knowledge.
Yeah, they're more aware about the Amazon.
Absolutely. And that's not because at home we put the news on and we watch the news. We don't watch TV. This is the children going
Access
out
to
there.
information.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got wealth of information from the internet. So I think that is a huge positive. One thing I did want to ask was.
Can I tell you my only concern?
Sure.
As company owners, we come across lots of people who take advantage of us, borrow money, never pay back, lie, cheat, steal. All I hope is that they're going to be resilient enough, and we don't bring them up in some kind of a protected cocoon that doesn't have them prepared for bad people. Now, I know you and I have this conversation, some conflict, because you see the good in everyone. But then if somebody goes and murders 50 people, they're not good people.
I agree.
Okay, now that's an extreme. But there are people out there who are actually bad people, right? And I look at someone and I think, they're a bad person, but they must have the really bad childhood. Okay? Now I've realized to think that unless they're willing to see themselves, I just don't want them in my life. Okay, because they're going to carry the hate and pain, and they're going to hurt and pain, and they're going to bring it to our life. I just hope that our children don't expose themselves to that pain or those people like you and I did. And they go in a little wiser and more aware that there are bad people out there. Like or not, there are going to be murderers and cheats and thieves, and we have them more, not totally guarded that they don't live their lives, but not totally naive to lose everything or get hurt badly. These are my only concerns.
That's actually a very good point, and I think going one step further from that, recently we've looked at getting the kids, they want to do a YouTube channel, for example. They love being in front of the camera. One thing I struggle with, because I was never raised in front of a camera, is being in front of the camera. I don't like photographs, I don't like being videoed. So I'm a lot more reserved when it comes to being at this side of the lens as opposed to that side of the lens. Whereas I watch the kids, and when they're filming, it's almost like they come alive in front of the camera, because now kids today, they're so much more used to screens than we are. They do online schooling, they're on Zoom with their teachers, they're on Microsoft Teams, they're constantly Snapchat, Instagram. So they're subjected to this world of seeing themselves outside of themselves. And I know you and I have had many conversations about exposing the kids online to potential threats. So my theory is very much, I'm very hesitant to have the kids out there on the internet and have that level of threat that could potentially attract. Whereas from your side, you're a little bit more at ease with the kids being online and doing their YouTube channel than maybe I am. So I think, not that we have a conflict, I think we have a mutual respect for each other's views and each other's concerns. But I do worry that by going down this path with the kids, it might subject them to unnecessary cyberbullying or online, or bullying from school friends, online trolls, whatever the situation is. So, and my natural instinct as a mother, rightly or wrongly, is to protect. I don't want them to be, out there in that big wide world just yet, because they're still small. Maybe later when they're older and they've got more experiences, I might feel differently. But at the moment, I have reservations, with the kids being online. So, share your thoughts.
Well, I respect your thoughts. We live in a world, and you can never escape it. We live in a world of social media. You cannot escape it. I don't give a shit about people who say, I want my privacy. There's three types of people, in my opinion. People who don't mind sharing their lives and views and checking on other people. People who like their privacy. People who are hiding. Okay? So when somebody says, I like my privacy, I say, what are you hiding? Okay, because the world is changing. Like it or not, we live in a world where we're transparent. If you're a company director, you're going to be on LinkedIn. If you're going to be an owner of a business, you're going to be on social media platform. The world has changed. The only difference is that people see reality. Before, there used to be a media company or a PR agency sent out certain truths about a certain superstar. Well, now we know if the Kardashians have had an argument, we'll know within 5 minutes the whole world knows. So that filter is stopped. Okay, and that's the uncomfortable bit. What I don't agree with, that people should know our home address. People should know where we hang out. Yes, that leaves them open. But being exposed online is not such a bad thing. That's the future of the world. It's the future of the world. And the more people you affect, you serve, you give, the more successful you become and more rich you become, right? And the fact is, our children have a gift. Our first two don't have that gift that these two have, right? So they won't fit. It's just like we've got two Usain Bolts and we're going to prevent them from running, right? They have a gift. Everybody's seen them, says they have a gift, right? So why not play to that gift? As long as we're protecting their personal information. Because yes, the more people you affect, you're going to have more haters and trollers. And I have haters I never met, right?
Yeah, and I understand and I respect sort of your opinion. I think at the same time, as adults, we know, if I go online, I know what potentially could be the benefits and I know what could be the repercussions because I'm older, I'm wiser, I've got experiences. I think when it comes to, not just our kids, but children in general, going online and using these online platforms, sometimes it can be from a point of naivety because they are young. They don't necessarily, and thank God they don't understand, a lot of the dangers with online. I don't want to teach, our 6-year-old about the dangers that, could potentially come from online platforms. But at the same time, I want to make sure that they're guarded and shielded against unnecessary attention when they're so young. Maybe later on, if they make that decision for themselves, then they go into that decision eyes wide open with all the research and everything else that goes behind it. My I guess, reservation is that we're making that decision for them with our knowledge, without them fully being aware.
Sure. I think, if I thought for 1 second they weren't enjoying it, we'll stop. They love it, they look forward to it, they have fun. Second thing is, we're blessed enough to have a team to manage all the community management. If Kyan or Caden were dealing with the audience that we don't recognize, I would never have done it. Okay? They don't even know, they can't even reply, they don't have access to reply to anyone. Okay, so we have a team of adults, hopefully highly trained, and we continue to train them to protect them from that vulnerability. So we're blessed, right? But if I thought Kyan or Caden were communicating direct with people, I would never set up that platform. So I agree with you. Just that we're blessed to have a different type of
set up
for them.
Maybe an individual child going out there and
will be
talking
different.
online.
I wouldn't like that. Again, at the same time, they play on Xbox Live, right? And
True.
there could be other kids who pretend to be kids and not kids, and just you don't know. As an adult, I used to play online poker, and somebody comes and say, "Can I borrow a million chips from you?" And they borrow a million, say "F you" and disappear. And I was like, and I'm 50 years old, right? So we can never stop sharks taking advantage, but I 100% agree with you. We're just blessed to be in a position to have a team filtering them. But then social media and online platforms, you can't, it's the future, period. When you want to get an app, the first thing it says is connect with your Facebook page.
True.
Right? So that's the world, that's the future.
Okay, thank you. Last question. So we've talked a lot about, what Dariush Soudi is good at and his attributes and his successes. Now, I'd like to know what you feel that you're not good at.
Gosh, a long list.
Only one thing.
Oh no, I'll give you a few. I don't mind. I'm not good at strategic planning. Okay? To me, too many things are black and white. You're either in or you're out. When I listen to people who've done well in corporates, they are 3 or 4 steps ahead of me. It's like you're playing a game of chess. A grandmaster sees 6 steps ahead. If you make these moves, this is going to happen. With me, I don't give a shit about the second move. this is me, I'll go in there. And sometimes I burn myself because I've been too black and white, okay? And I don't have the patience for grey, okay? So that's probably one. Although I teach my staff not to talk too much. I think maybe I air my opinion when it's not needed in my personal life too much. I mean, it's just not needed, right? So why air it? And it's only going to create issues, right? So better not say anything. So I'm learning to be a lot more thoughtful and less
outspoken, maybe.
Vocal. Thank you very much. And yeah, I want to be the grand old man, the wise old man. Wise man, forget the old bit. I want to be the wise man. That's what I want to be, rather than the doer and the pusher. And what else? I need more discipline when it comes to my food. I need to be more disciplined when it comes to my exercise. I need to be more disciplined with the us time. I mean, you and me. I need to be more disciplined with my time with my children. I need to be more disciplined with less distraction from the phone. I'm more focused to being in the now.
In the now.
I don't mind. Actually, you may think it's a weakness, but I actually think it's a strength whereby I expect the best. If I pay for it, I want the best, and if I don't get it, I air it, right? And although, for instance, if I get a really bad service at a hotel or a waiter or a manager or anything, a car company or something, and I air it, I actually think in my mind that I might not like me, but I've actually served them something, because later on they're not going to make that mistake again. They'll get more tips.
True.
They get higher salaries. So I feel that confrontation is unnecessary, but for them, long term, I'm doing them a service, if that makes sense.
But actually, it makes perfect sense. And I think, when you talk about that confrontation, you're never confrontational and rude. You're always confrontational, but very polite with it. You air it in such a way that the person who's listening doesn't feel insulted, they don't feel, ashamed. You do it actually in a very honourable way, and that's one of the...
Thank you, but it all depends on my mood.
And the circumstance. No, but for the most part, you're very polite.
I'll tell you what happened. The other day, I was not in a good place. I was tired, and maybe we had a ding dong or something, and I was just not in a good place. And I went to get some service, and this guy, oh yeah, I'll tell you what it was. It was for the fourth time, the screen on my Samsung came off. Again, okay. And it's a half an hour experience. They've got to take it, put a liquid, put it under the UV light, and the same damn guy serves me every single time. Okay, so I'm tired, I'm exhausted, didn't get sleep, we're in a bad place.
And inconvenienced by the phone.
Inconvenienced by the phone. I see the guy, he looks at me, he tuts. Right? And then without saying a word, picks up another brand new screen for the fifth time, opens it up and doesn't say a word to me. Okay? So I'm sitting there
and this is building inside
I'm sitting there wanting to kill him, right? And that to make things worse, Samsung manager had decided to put Islamic prayers in the whole of the shop, right? I thought it was just prayer time, but this went on for 20 minutes, right? And the store is empty. Now I'm thinking, I care for Samsung.
Where's the customer service?
I care for the sales because I'm a sales and marketing guy. This guy hasn't apologized for my inconvenience. He's touching away because I'm inconveniencing him. I would just want to kill someone. So I thought, you know what, break the pattern. So I said to him, hey, listen, I know you're focused on fixing my screen, but I'm going to make the shop busy, okay? And I'm not going to ask for any commission. He looked at me like, you're psycho. So I thought, just go with this. So I went to the music center and I downloaded some music, but I thought it would bring people into the shop. Within 2 minutes, the shop was packed.
Wow.
I changed the music and the shop was packed. And suddenly I got a sense of fulfillment that my creativity brought clients into the place. So by this time he was laughing, right? He's changed. He never friggin' apologized. But then instead of ignoring me, maybe he was in a bad day. He said, thank you so much for waiting, and here it is. And I left a different energy than I came in, because I actually literally want to strangle the guy with the phone cord, right? So, but then I made it. I think the sales improved in the hour I was there. The environment changed, and I left. And then lo and behold, 2 days ago, the screen comes up and I want to go back and kill the guy, right? Because I don't know what they're doing. The stamp screen doesn't fit properly. So it just shows it depends on your mood. But you can control your environment depending on your behavior.
But again, and that was my point, like you get the point across, you make your point, but you do it in a...
It was that close with not being in a positive way.
But I've never really seen that side where, you know, you've disrespected somebody, or, you know, you've done it in such a way that's left them feeling small. You always address the situation and you leave that individual feeling maybe not necessarily empowered at that moment, but, you know, something to think about. Yeah, they think about something and they learn something from it.
When I was a waiter, and because I worked since I arrived in England, age 14, I just worked. I've never not worked. It's just, I don't know, it's what I did. And I didn't speak English, so they gave me jobs that were so mundane that didn't involve communication. So, and I used to be a waiter at weddings. And this particular day, I'll give you some funny examples. And this particular day, I was carrying a tray of pine pots, yes, and of course, they want me to make as little trip as possible, so they pack it with like 20 of them, and I'm 14, 15, I barely can hold this damn thing, and it had revolving doors.
Oh no.
So I think the bridegroom was doing a speech, and everybody's quiet, and I take this tray, and somebody on the other side pushes the revolving door,
no.
hits the tray,
Like
and they all smash. And imagine the whole wedding turned around and looked at me, and I'm like, you know, but I can't speak English, this is really embarrassing, I want to die. And the manager comes and says, "You stupid idiot," in front of everyone.
No, that's just
right.
awful.
And I'd actually quit the job that day, but I thought I'll never ever humiliate
Belittle
someone, because it had
somebody.
nothing to do with my stupidity.
Yeah.
You know, I was careful.
Wrong
Somebody
place,
on the
wrong
other
time.
side just pushed the revolving door open. So maybe I was stupid, because I'll give you an example. Previous week, I don't know if I told you this story. I gave great service, because I worked hard. When my colleagues were messing around, I was doing twice as much, serving vegetables and things, and I'm always sweat, so they can see me sweating with tissue, and serving, sweating. This kid is running around his ass off. So the bride's father came to me and gave me a £20 tip. Did I tell you this?
I don't think so.
He gave me a £20 tip, and he said,
Oh yeah, you gave
he
it
said,
to them.
get drinks for yourself and your colleagues. So I took the £20 and I thought, that's a lot of money. So I went round to my colleagues and said, does anybody want any drinks? Anybody want any drinks? I went to the kitchen, anybody want any drinks? I said no. So I gave the guy his £20 back. I said, nobody wanted drinks. And he's like,
A strange guy.
okay. Put it back. Later on, somebody said, that's a tip, you idiot.
Oh.
Right? So I was naive.
But that's also good karma, right? Whatever happened in that moment,
Maybe
you created
40,
some good
40
karma
years
around
later,
you.
it served me well.
It
But
paid
like
off, yeah.
40 years later, I remember it. There was another time, like talking about, like, I train our staff, right? And I was a night shift guy. And 3 o'clock in the morning, I get a call saying that this guy wants this whole main course, food, everything, desserts. And it was just chef and me. I've never been taught how to serve anything, right? So I'm packing everything, I'm sticking things in the microwave, the steak comes out. Now I had a tray here, and most of the tray was on the table. So I put the steak on this side, and the turn around to stick something out. The weight of the steak flipped the
whole
tray
plate.
onto. So I'm turning around, the steak's on the floor,
Oh no.
the desserts are all mixed up. So I'm thinking it's 3 a.m, and I'm gonna go get fired. So I took the steak, put it under the sink, washed it, put it there, took the peas that had potato, washed them, put it away, stuck in the microwave. And I did this wishy-washy looking thing, and I delivered it. And
You
so
took it to the room.
So I'm nervous now. I took it to the room, and I knock on the door, not answering. And I'm like, what do I do? And nobody's ever told me what that is. So I leave it there and walk off. They're gonna call and complain. So I'm knocking, I'm ringing the doorbell. Imagine I'm 15 or something. And I'm like, what the hell? And I walked in, they were having sex.
Oh no.
And I'm there with a steak and a tray, and I know where that damn thing, and it's, I'm seeing bombs going up and down. And I just went, and I think they just caught the back of me as I was leaving the room.
Running
like,
out the
like
door.
what? Ka-chink. Ran off. I mean, those experiences you can never replace. But again, I was like, What do you? I still don't know what you do.
Um,
Nobody taught me that. What would you do?
I
You
don't
got
know,
the steak. You
actually.
ring in the door.
I guess
think.
you'd ring the bell and you would leave
You wouldn't
the
leave the
food.
fresh food on the
Or
floor.
maybe you would leave the food outside and then you would call the
A
room
phone
and say
this. Yeah,
your food's
nobody
outside.
taught me
Or
that. Yeah. See, even now we're kind of like, what
Yeah.
do we do? Because I've never seen fresh food left at the door
yeah.
because it'll go cold. So, yeah, those are very memorable, memorable moments.
Life moments.
Like, there was another time because I used to be into sports, and I used to, in the evenings, I used to glass collecting till 2 in the morning. Can you imagine? I cycle an hour, I get home at 3 in the morning because after the nightclub closes. But I had really strong arms, and I still do in a way. And there was a bouncer who was like 6'6" and stuff like that, huge guy, and he would challenge everybody to arm wrestle. Okay, and as I'm 16, maybe I think I had to be over 16 to get a job as a glass collector in a bar. But I just worked hard. So this night I'm in the kitchen, and the guy's like showing off, and he says, "Yeah, I'll give you an arm wrestle." I went, "Okay," and I beat him. Right?
Bad move.
He made my life hell
I can
for the
imagine.
next 6 months because I humiliated him in front of everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I was so naive. I didn't think anything of it. I thought everybody would be proud, right? So, yeah, I had to leave because he just made my life hell. And then when I got older, he wouldn't let me in the clubs because it was a head doorman because I beat him
You'd
in an arm
always be
wrestle.
the guy that beat him in an arm wrestle.
So what I've learned now, so if I ever play squash or table football with clients, I always let them beat me.
Or manage your manager.
I always let them beat me.
Yeah.
But I'll make it a close game. So I didn't think I've gifted it, but I think they've earned it. Okay.
Psychological lessons.
Yeah. I can give you a ton of those. That leads us to our date
Amazing.
night. So I'll take you out this weekend. I'll give you some more stories that you didn't
Some
know.
more stories. I can't
And then
wait.
6 months later, you can pretend it was somebody else who told you those stories and
Or I
repeat
can
them to me.
interview you again in 6 months.
So did you
when
know?
I've polished my skills and you can tell me
You're-
all the same stories.
Wasn't she
and I can be
amazing?
amazed.
You're natural and you look gorgeous and you're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Feel incredibly awkward, but I've enjoyed this. This has been really nice.
Love you.
Thank you, love you. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. It's been very insightful, extremely interesting.
All I can say is thank God you've had your first experience with me.
Indeed, my memorable one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have an amazing day.
Love you. Bye.